Hi there. If you're watching this on YouTube, or you're wanting to watch any of my content on my channel, or both for that matter, I would strongly recommend hitting the subscribe button and comment and like on any videos if you may wish, because this is a general audience channel. Also, this video is not made for kids, it is for older fans and adults alike. So please sit back and enjoy the video. Spiteful Gesture. Based on the original story by Mainland Studios, adapted, edited, and told by Julyleonard. Only a few weeks had passed since Edward had taken his first passenger train. It had been Edward's first day out in a long time, and almost all the other engines had given Edward their full support, even Gordon. However, two did not. The Fat Director had brought two blue engines to the Northwestern Railway on trial, and they were quite displeased with Edward. They didn't have any names, only numbers. 98462 and 87546. These two engines had a great deal in common. They were both rude and cocky. They prided themselves greatly to the point where even Gordon, for all his arrogance, grew hurt and impatient with them. However, unlike Gordon, neither of those two ever seemed to know when enough was enough. So you finally managed to make it out of the station, I see, Edward, cackled 98462 as Edward backed down into the sheds one night. Edward had just returned from his first passenger run and was feeling quite proud. "What a useless engine you are, Edward," remarked 87546. "I'm sure we'll be hearing plenty of passenger complaints tomorrow." "Indeed," agreed 98462. "You must have been running late all day." The others gave the two engines a foul look, but Edward just smiled. "Actually, we were right on time. I'm happy to be useful." He chuckled. Edward knew that as long as he did not let 98462 and 87546's words bother him, the engines wouldn't berate him for long. And soon enough, not getting any sort of reaction out of Edward, the two big blue bullies drifted off to sleep. The next day, as Edward was now working regularly on passenger trains, the Fat Director had extended the timetable to run later into the evenings. This now meant that Edward, Gordon, and 98462 would be running the passenger services all across the island. Edward had his doubts, but as usual, he was determined to work his hardest. Fortunately for him, he ran the loop line, so as to sub Gordon and 98462 at the big station. A few weeks went by, and Edward felt his trains were getting heavier and heavier, or he was getting older and older. The other engines had noticed this and offered to help. "No, thank you," panted Edward. "You have your own trains to manage. We can't upset the Fat Director's timetable." Little did Edward know that 98462 had heard everything and made a plan. The next morning, Edward had arrived at the big station to collect his first passenger train of the day. When he arrived, he saw that there were no coaches. Thomas must have woken up late again, he thought. He was just about to collect some more when, to his shock, 98462 came whooshing and wheeshing into the platform with Edward's coaches. "No need to fret," he said snootingly. "I'll be taking your train today. We mustn't upset the Fat Director's timetable. Ha 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 ha. He laughed loudly as the guard blew his whistle and set off. Edward was upset, but he knew it'd be best to get on with his work. That evening, Edward was backing into his berth as 9462 was boasting loudly. "We don't need Edward anymore. I've proven that I can manage 2 trains at once. Anyhow, why keep him around when all he does is get in the way, 87546 agreed, but the other engines didn't. "Edward helped build these rails that we run on," fumed Thomas. "And without him, mind you, none of us can have a railway to work on." 9462 was having none of it and interjected. "He's a thing of the past," he said. "Us bigger tender engines are faster, stronger, and more up-to-date than that old iron." Edward finally gave up. He decided to take a stand against 9462. The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual to collect his coaches and make it to the platform before 9462. The yard felt silent, and Edward felt sure he had beaten him. But he was wrong. "And what do you think you're doing?" scowled 9462. Edward tried to sound brave. "Collecting my coaches for my passenger train." "I don't think so," 9462 growled. "You are nothing but slow and old. You are going to sit in the shed and wait to be sent away. Or even better, scrapped," he finished, grinning. Before Edward could say another word, 9462 backed down onto his line and coupled up to his coaches. Edward's heart sank, but not for long. "And just what do you think you're doing?" bellowed a familiar voice. It was the fat director. Collecting my train, sir," 9462 replied, trying to look as innocent as he could. "From what I've just seen, that is not the case at all. I've had several passenger complaints saying that they were taken to the wrong stations and fellow workers about your treatment towards other engines, you understand." 9462's face at this point turned as white as a ghost. "My engines," the fat director went on, "work hard and help fellow engines when needed. But you have done neither of those. Let me remind you that I brought you and 87546 here to work here on trial. And I'm not sure if you could be trusted to work on my railway. I shall have to think about it some more. But for now, I want you to go straight back to the sheds immediately." 9462 was so embarrassed he just couldn't muster a response. So he sulked back to the sheds. The fat director then turned to Edward. "You must understand this, Edward," he said. "You are one of my engines. You might not think so, but you are not alone on this railway. If you have any troubles, you must come and see me right away. Understand?" Edward could see from his warm smile that the fat director was told everything. He looked across the yard and saw Thomas, Henry, and Gordon all smiling back. "Now then," finished the fat director, "you have a train to pull, and after that, I want you to have a nice long rest." "Oh, thank you, sir," smiled Edward happily. As he set off, Edward felt his position on the railway was secure again. He had no more troubles from 9462 further on. That was until 87546. Well, I mustn't say any more, or I shall spoil the next story.